What is up, everybody? Oh my god, I'm so excited to let you guys know that we are filming on a brand new camera. I am not filming on my phone anymore. I hope you guys are enjoying the crystal clearness, the clarity. It definitely inspires me to wear makeup more often because, ew. Anyway, without being more dramatic than I already have been, the only thing I'm a little bit worried about is the audio on this. So if the audio sucks, you guys, don't hesitate to tell me. I am in the process of like thinking of different microphones and other options like that. So if you guys have any recommendations, please let me know, because I definitely want the audio to be on point, even though all we really do is sit and talk about spooky things. So if I keep looking slightly over here, it's because I actually have a camera that has the flip out display, so I can kind of look at myself. So I'm going to try really hard not to break eye contact with you guys. Today we're going to be doing a reading recap. I know it feels like we just did one, but honestly for the month of June, I only did like, what, maybe 2 videos. It was very chaotic. It was very difficult. It was a lot. All right, it was a lot. But I am glad to say that my life is kind of, I want to say winding down, although that sounds really like morbid. It's calming down. How about that? My life is calming down quite a bit. I'm having some really interesting new ideas career-wise. I'm having some thoughts about starting things that, you know, might be a little questionable, but I'm down for the ride if it makes money, right? So anyway, let's dive into this reading recap for the month of June. I did not quite read as much as I did for May, so I was a little disappointed with that. But I read some really good books, so I'm going to try to do this in order. So I started this book in May, I believe, A Kingdom of Ruin by K.F. Breene. I started this book in May. I finished it in June. It's quite a chunker. I was so upset by this book because it's good. It's really good. Don't get me wrong. I love this fucking book. I love this story. I'm really intrigued. But this book was so huge and so concise and so like finale-ish that it really kind of rubbed me the wrong way to find out that there's yet another book coming in this series. So I'm a little bit like, oh my god, like, don't get me wrong, I will read it. I'm in this far, man. I'm in the 3rd book. I will continue to read them as long as K.F. Breene continues to put them out. But I was like ready to be done with the story, if that makes sense. I was ready to put it to rest. And unfortunately, that was not in the plan. But it was really good. I liked this book almost more than the first 2 because it focused so much more on our lead lady, Finley. Could not remember her name for a second. It focuses so much more on Finley, what she has to go through to get back to Nefane. And again, I hope I'm saying that character's name right. It looks like it's pronounced Nefane, but I don't know. But it's really good. I really enjoyed it. There is some really sweet scenes in there. There's more like almost soft romance versus the first 2 books, which were more like hardcore porn at times. So yes, I do still recommend this series. I used to call it a trilogy because I thought this was going to be the last one. Now it's more of a series. So I will recommend it. It is fun. It is phenomenal. And if you're not so much into just like the mind porn bit, if you get through the first 2 books, this book is very different. It very much focuses on plot and on character development and on just like this budding romance, or more like rebuilding the romance. After Finley ends up having to go away for a while. And it's just a wild ride. I really loved it. It felt more fantasy than smut, which I enjoyed a lot. The next book that I read for the month of June was The Haunting of Lee Harper by Darcy Coates. First of all, I don't really think Darcy Coates can do any wrong. She's one of those authors that is just steadfast. She's stable. She's always going to put out a good, decent read. Not saying that any of her books are like some literary phenomenon where they're just like the most epic thing, mind blown, but they're steady, they're consistently good reads, good books all across the board. This one was actually my least favorite. I didn't hate it by any means. I didn't like, you know, strongly dislike it even. It was only my least favorite because it was written in a very different style from what I'm used to from Darcy. And I just was like comfortable with how the other books were. So this one kind of put me out of my comfort zone a little bit. But very strong read. I think I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I can't really remember. And most of the time I give Darcy Coates a 4. The reason this one kind of didn't sit with me right is because you're literally reading this story from the perspective of someone you wouldn't expect to read a perspective from. I'm going to leave it at that because anything else is a spoiler. So definitely different as far as Darcy Coates goes, but still very much enjoyable. So I'd say a solid 3 out of 5. The next book that I managed to read is kind of a chonker. It is The Cold Vanish, Seeking the Missing in North America's Wildlands by John Billman. So this hardcover I ended up finding at a local Goodwill or it was some kind of thrift store. Oh, no. I take that back. It was Half Price Books. I ended up finding this at Half Price Books for like $13, whereas normally it's like $28, almost $30. And it's pretty much brand new. Like there's no damage to this thing at all, which is awesome. It almost reads like a true crime novel, to be honest. I don't know if John Billman writes true crime. I don't know if that's normal for him, but it definitely does read somewhat like a true crime novel. It is very interesting, some of the facts that he brings up, some of the depth of a research that he went through to write this book was very impressive. You can tell that from a journalistic perspective, he's one of those that like literally dives in. He literally makes like relationships with the people involved in these stories and really wants to tell their story, not just some tabloid story, right? So this book covers a lot of different angles. So there's the factual evidence of, you know, how many people go missing in the wild in North America. And then there's, you know, him taking you along this main journey of this one individual who's missing, but along the way kind of discussing these other cases that are similar, other cases where bodies were found, other cases where no one was ever found, and like kind of the difference between that. He also talks about a lot of different individuals who have some very outlandish theories as to why so many people go missing. I almost said go disappearing in the wild. Things like, you know, people saying that Bigfoot is responsible, alien abduction, accidentally walking through portals in the woods that lead to alternate dimensions. And don't get me wrong, I don't disbelieve that necessarily. I do think that things like that are definitely possible in the world, but I definitely think that there are a lot of people out there who prey on the families of missing individuals to try to like further their outlandish theories. There's no evidence to back that up per se. And if there is, please point me in the direction, because I will gladly admit when I'm wrong. But yeah, this one was a solid read. I would say about 3.5, 4 out of 5 stars. Pretty good. Pretty damn good. Now, luckily for me, I did get to read some of my manga that has been piling up behind me here this month. So I don't even know if I have hauled this with you guys or not, but I did end up reading the Ancient Magus Bride, Volume 1. I actually have the entire series, the anime series, on DVD, and I watched it first before I ever even knew that it was a manga. So, loved it. Loved it so goddamn much. Love this story. I don't know why, but I have a thing for tall, bony men. I just have a thing for them. I don't know. But this is a wonderful story. I'm hoping that the manga go past and beyond where the anime stopped, because I would love to see Elias's and Chise's story continue beyond that, because I really want to see, like, do they actually get married? What's the wedding like? Does he ever learn intimacy or anything like that? So yeah, I definitely want to continue on with this series. It's adorable. Yeah, I just love it. Solid 4 out of 5. Solid. The second manga that I was able to read this past month is called The Wolf Never Sleeps Volume 1. Honestly, I picked this up on a whim at Books A Million because it was off to the side on one of the carts for the new releases. And I had to have it. I mean, first of all, it has a wolf mentioned. And second of all, the artwork is fucking phenomenal. Like, it's so interesting. And the story, artwork is beautiful. Storyline is beautiful. The way it's written out was kind of lackluster a little bit. But on the flip side of that, it did kind of give me a sense of nostalgia because it like threw me back to old school anime days where like the artwork was fantastic, the characters were really interesting, but the dialogue itself was just kind of like, what? Like, what are we talking about? I recently bought and watched the Sailor Moon R movie. And that was one of those that I, like as a child, was blown away by. It was the most miraculous anime I had ever seen. And now looking back at it, I'm just sitting there like, the dialogue sucks so bad. Still love it. Will always love it. But if you hear really heavy breathing right now, that's my puppy. Get down. Last but not least, I did finally get to this book, which has been sitting on my shelf forever, and that is The Slender Man by Dexter Morgenstern. I think that's how you say it. I picked this up at Books A Million also. It was in the horror section, although I'm not entirely sure why, because this is like very obviously YA. It is so painfully YA that like if you don't enjoy YA horror, I would strongly discourage you from reading it because that's how soft it is. I do have another book on my shelves about Slender Man. I think that's more of like a documentary style book. So I can't wait to read that one because the real life is so much scarier than what this book portrays. But with that being said, if you enjoy YA horror, you might actually really dig this because it's a pretty interesting story. Word of caution though, it ends in a very stereotypical way that you would think it would end as far as Slender Man goes. There's not a happy ending here, okay? I'm not trying to spoil anything for you because it does definitely have some twists and turns in there that I wasn't expecting. But don't go into this thinking that it's like a typical YA that has like a happy ending because not all YA has happy endings, and this is definitely one that doesn't. But it's a very short, quick little read. Took me, I think, 2 days or so to get through just because I have work and all that other stuff going on right now. But yeah, I gave it a solid 3 out of 5. Not too bad. There were a couple of grammatical mistakes in there that kind of irked me, but nothing like some of the books that I've mentioned on this channel. So don't worry too much about that. But that's it, guys. That is all the books that I read in June of this year. So what did you guys read? What were y'all thinking about reading for next month? I will shortly have a video coming out. It's probably gonna be my next video to discuss July's TBR. Now I will say that I have a TBR, but take that with a grain of salt because I'm also a mood reader. And as we all know, mood readers don't always stick to their TBRs. So with that being said, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, please hit that like button. It helps your girl out a lot. Subscribe if you haven't already. Share the video. Comment down below anything that you would like. Keep it classy or else you get blocked. Just saying. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out, Hell Hounds.